Commander Elena Reyes stared at the crystalline warship hovering over Manhattan, its translucent hull pulsing with energy patterns that defied human engineering principles. It wasn't the largest of the 17 Vordax vessels that had appeared simultaneously over major cities worldwide, but something about its positioning troubled her tactical mind. "They're arranged in a helix pattern," she murmured, tracing lines between the global positions displayed on the bunker's hull. The Rocky Mountain Command Center, officially decommissioned 3 years ago, had been hastily reactivated when the aliens arrived. General Harris glanced at her with barely concealed disdain. "Is that relevant, Reyes? Or are you still chasing patterns that don't exist?" Elena ignored the barb. Her reckless tactical theories had cost her a promising military career, but right now, her disgrace seemed insignificant compared to the potential extinction of humanity. The room fell silent as every screen switched to the same broadcast. Admiral Xerfel appeared, his iridescent scaled form towering over the human diplomats who had agreed to first contact. His 6 eyes blinked in unsettling asynchrony as he spoke, his translator converting melodic tones into flat English. "Your species has been evaluated and found acceptable for integration into the collective. 17 civilizations before you have joined our perfect union. You have 7 planetary rotations to surrender your world, disable your primitive weaponry, and prepare for genetic optimization." The alien's mouth, a vertical slit lined with crystalline teeth, formed what might have been a smile. "Resistance is inefficient and will result in selective population reduction before forced integration." The broadcast cut to panicked news anchors, their voices overlapping as governments worldwide issued conflicting statements. Some nations immediately announced capitulation. Others promised defiance despite the obvious technological gap. "Silence," ordered General Harris, and the screens went dark. "Options?" The room erupted with desperate suggestions. "Launch nuclear strikes. Attempt negotiations. Offer conditional surrender." Elena remained quiet, her attention fixed on a secondary monitor displaying the raw transmission data. While everyone focused on the alien's words, something in the signal itself nagged at her. "Permission to speak freely, sir," she finally interrupted. The general nodded reluctantly. "The aliens are broadcasting on frequencies that suggest their systems process information fundamentally differently than ours," she explained, pulling up spectral analyses. "These harmonic patterns here, they're not just carrying the message, they are the message, with our video and audio merely approximations." "Your point, Commander. Their technology isn't just advanced, it's divergent. They evolved to process light and sound as interconnected phenomena." She highlighted sections of the analysis. "These patterns suggest vulnerability. Their communications appear unencrypted because they never developed encryption. They never needed to lie to each other." Harris's skepticism was evident, but desperation made him receptive. "What exactly are you proposing?" "Let me assemble a team. Not conventional military. I need people who think differently. The hackers we prosecuted, the engineers whose designs were too theoretical, the linguists who specialize in nonlinear communication." Elena's eyes gleamed with renewed purpose. "While our diplomats stall for time, we'll find a way into their systems." "You want to hack an alien network with technology centuries beyond ours?" "No, sir." Elena's lips curved into a determined smile. "I want to introduce them to something they've never encountered in 17 conquests. Human deception. They expect us to surrender or die fighting. They've never met a species that cheats." As authorization came through, Elena sent messages to the outcasts and misfits whose unconventional thinking might now be humanity's only hope. The Vordax had conquered 17 worlds through superior technology and evolutionary harmony. They'd never faced a species forged in chaos, whose greatest strength was adapting to defeat. They expected humanity to surrender. They were about to learn how severely they had miscalculated. The Geneva Convention Center gleamed under enhanced security as world leaders gathered for the response to the Vordax ultimatum. 4 days had passed since first contact, with 3 remaining before the deadline. Inside a hastily constructed Faraday cage beneath the main conference room, Alina briefed her unlikely team. Shen, a network specialist once imprisoned for hacking military satellites. Aisha, a theoretical physicist whose papers on light-based computation had been labeled dangerously speculative. Rodriguez, a former art forger whose understanding of light frequencies had proven unexpectedly valuable. And Cato, a neurodivergent linguist specializing in nonlinear communication systems. The diplomats upstairs are buying us time, Alina explained, displaying holographic schematics extracted from the Moviev scout ship incursion. While they negotiate meaningless surrender terms, we'll be implementing Phase 1. You still haven't explained how we're supposed to infiltrate technology centuries beyond ours, Shen challenged, squinting at the alien crystalline structures. Aisha stepped forward. Because it isn't centuries beyond us in every way. She manipulated the hologram, highlighting neural pathways in the ship's systems. The Vordax process information through crystalline structures that mimic their evolved biology. Complex, but predictable. They're like savants, added Cato, his fingers moving constantly. Incredibly advanced in computational processing, but inflexible. They've never developed counters to approaches they can't conceive of. Rodriguez nodded. Their visual processing runs on specific light frequencies. I've identified 7 they can perceive that humans can't, and 3 they're completely blind to. Alina placed a small device on the table. This emitter operates in that blind spectrum. We've loaded it with code that resonates at the same frequencies as their neural pathways, hiding in plain sight. Above them, in the main conference hall, Admiral Exerfall and 3 subordinate Vordax sat opposite the human delegation. Their towering forms remained perfectly still, an eerie contrast to the shifting, fidgeting humans. Your proposed amendments to surrender terms are inefficient, Exerfall stated, vertical pupils dilating with what might have been irritation. Integration cannot be partial. Genetic optimization cannot be voluntary. The UN Secretary-General leaned forward. Our species functions through consensus, Admiral. We require time to build that consensus. Inefficient, repeated Exerfall. Your biological limitations will be corrected after integration. Perhaps, ventured the Secretary-General, a demonstration of your integration methods would help persuade our population. A small delegation could visit your vessel, and unnecessary risk, interrupted a subordinate Vordax. Their probability analysis suggests potential sabotage. Exerfall's head tilted at an inhuman angle. Sabotage would be futile. Our systems are incompatible with human technology. Beneath them, Alina's team intercepted and analyzed this exchange through hidden sensors. They can't imagine technological cross-contamination, she realized. Their evolutionary path never required cybersecurity. The surrender ceremony must proceed according to protocol. The Vordax Admiral was insisting above. You will present formal documentation in physical form, as all species do. The Secretary-General nodded solemnly. We've prepared a ceremonial vessel containing Earth's response. Would tomorrow be acceptable? Our leaders require one final consultation. Exerfall's mouth slit twitched. One rotation. Then efficiency must prevail. As the meeting adjourned, Alina received confirmation. The request for delay had been granted. Phase 1 is approved, she told her team. The ceremonial box has been modified with Rodriguez's spectral technology. When Exerfall opens it, our Trojan enters their network, Shen finished, his fingers already dancing across interfaces. But will it be enough? No, Alina admitted. That's why we need Phase 2. While their attention is on the ceremony, we'll be implementing something no integrated species has ever attempted against the collective. Cato looked up, his expression suddenly focused. We're going to introduce chaos into perfect harmony. Exactly. Alina smiled grimly. Let's see how their perfect system handles a little human unpredictability. The uninhabited Marshall Island disappeared in a blinding flash, visible across half the Pacific. Admiral Exerthal had grown impatient with humanity's delaying tactics and ordered a demonstration of Vordak's firepower. The energy beam from the mothership vaporized 16 square kilometers instantly, leaving nothing but superheated glass and steam. Predictable, Alina murmured, watching the footage in the command bunker. They're following the same conquest protocol they've used 17 times before. General Harris looked ashen. That was just one ship, one weapon. And now they'll expect global panic, followed by immediate surrender, Alina replied, turning to her team. Instead, they're going to experience something unprecedented. Shen looked up from his workstation, where Vordak's communication patterns flowed across multiple screens. The Trojan is active but dormant. It's spreading through their network undetected, exactly as designed. Their version of network security is fascinating, Aisha added, analyzing incoming data. It's all built on harmonic resonance. They literally can't conceive of disharmony within their systems. Alina nodded, because their evolutionary path was collective rather than competitive. They never developed deception as a survival strategy. She activated the global command channel. All stations, Operation Discord is go. Activation in 20 minutes. Across the planet, hastily constructed transmitters powered up. Some were hidden in abandoned radio telescopes, others disguised as civilian broadcasting equipment. All were calibrated to Rodriguez's specifications. The conceptual breakthrough came when we stopped thinking of this as a technological problem, Alina explained to General Harris, who'd insisted on understanding their strategy. The Vordaks aren't just technologically advanced. They're biologically different. Their sensor systems evolved from their biology. Cato's hands moved rapidly as he spoke. Their perception is their vulnerability. They process reality through crystalline neural structures that require harmony. Discord is literally incomprehensible to them. We're going to give them sensory overload, Rodriguez added. On frequencies they can perceive, but humans can't. On the main display, a red counter ticked down toward 0. Alina addressed her team one final time. Remember, this isn't about defeating their technology. It's about introducing something their evolutionary path never prepared them for. Noise in the signal. Chaos in the pattern. The transmitters activated simultaneously. To human observers, nothing seemed to happen. The frequencies operated beyond human perception. But aboard the Vordak's vessels, the effect was immediate and devastating. Monitor feeds from infiltration devices showed Vordak's crew members clutching their sensory organs, their movements becoming erratic. Ship systems flickered as the carefully calibrated harmony of their neural networks encountered something they had no evolutionary defense against. Phase 3, Alina ordered calmly. Beneath Lake Michigan, a submarine-launched stealth drone ascended toward the Chicago Vordak's vessel. Similar drones approached alien ships globally, each carrying a quantum entanglement device designed by Aisha. The Vordaks, their sensory systems overwhelmed by the Discord transmissions, failed to detect the approaching threat. On the mothership, Admiral Exerthal experienced confusion for the first time in his existence. His perception, once crystal clear, now contained contradictions. Harmony fractured into dissonance. He attempted to order countermeasures, but the concepts required to describe the attack didn't exist in Vordak's language. Impossible, he communicated to the fleet. Primitives cannot affect superior systems. Yet the evidence contradicted this certainty, another conceptual impossibility for the Vordak's mind. In his confusion, Exerthal made his first tactical error. He ordered all ships to reboot their neural networks simultaneously. In the command bunker, Alina watched as the alien fleet momentarily went dark. Now, she whispered into her comm, "Infiltration teams, you have a 60-second window. Make it count." Across the globe, humanity seized its moment to strike back against the seemingly invincible invaders, not with superior firepower, but with the uniquely human capacity to imagine the impossible. Alina's infiltration shuttle approached the underbelly of the Vordak's mothership, its experimental stealth technology rendering it virtually invisible against Earth's atmosphere. Beside her, Rodriguez monitored the ship's adaptive camouflage, while Aisha finalized calculations for their most audacious move yet. 3 minutes to contact, their pilot whispered, navigating through debris from earlier failed military strikes. Their sensor grid is still fluctuating from the Discord attack. Elena studied the massive vessel above them. Unlike human spacecraft, the Vordax ship had no visible thrusters or weapons, just seamless crystalline surfaces that pulsed with internal energy. No obvious entry points presented themselves. There, Rodriguez pointed to a barely perceptible distortion. That's an energy transfer node. The light refraction is different. The shuttle adjusted course, approaching what appeared to be a solid section of hull. As they drew closer, the crystalline surface revealed complex patterns flowing beneath its translucent exterior, like blood vessels in alien skin. Fascinating, Aisha murmured. The entire ship is essentially alive. Not biological, but mimicking biological structures. Can you breach it? Elena asked. Aisha nodded, activating the device they dubbed Mirror Glass, humanity's most sophisticated attempt to interact with Vordax technology. Their systems recognize harmonic patterns as authorized access. We're going to reflect their own energy signature back to them. The device hummed to life, projecting a precisely calibrated energy field. For several tense seconds, nothing happened. Then, silently, an opening formed in the crystalline hull. Not mechanically, but as if the material had decided to become permeable. We're in, Elena stated. Remember, we have 20 minutes before the neural network fully recovers from the reboot. The team entered a corridor that defied human architectural concepts, angles that seemed to shift depending on perspective, surfaces that flowed rather than connected. Their modified visors translated the alien environment into comprehensible terms, highlighting paths and potential threats. The central neural hub should be 200 meters in that direction, Shen indicated, interpreting data from their infiltration protocols. But there's significant Vordax activity between us and... An alarm pulsed through the ship, not audible, but felt as vibrations through the crystalline structure. They've detected the breach, Elena realized. Plan B, we split up. Aisha, Shen, continue to the neural hub. Rodriguez with me. As the team separated, Elena led Rodriguez toward what their intelligence suggested was a secondary communication node. The corridor widened into a chamber where 3 Vordax crew members worked at interfaces of pure light. Elena activated the personal Discord emitter, a miniaturized version of the global attack. The effect was immediate. The Vordax froze, their sensory organs pulsing erratically as they struggled to process the contradictory input. Now, Elena ordered. Rodriguez deployed their specialized equipment, devices designed to tap into the light-based Vordax interfaces. While the aliens remained disoriented, they gained access to ship systems that human technology should never have been able to interact with. Uploading the modified virus, Rodriguez confirmed. This variant targets their weapons grid specifically. Elsewhere in the ship, Aisha and Shen reached the neural hub, a breathtaking spherical chamber where crystalline structures converged from every direction, pulsing with information flows that represented the ship's collective intelligence. It's beautiful, Shen whispered, momentarily awed by the alien technology. Aisha remained focused and completely vulnerable to exactly the right disruption. She carefully placed quantum entanglement nodes at precise intervals around the chamber, each calibrated to introduce subtle contradictions into the otherwise perfect harmony of the Vordax neural network. Throughout the mothership, systems began behaving erratically. Weapons powered down. Internal barriers formed randomly. Communication with the fleet fractured into incomprehensible patterns. On the bridge, Admiral Exurithal experienced something no Vordax had ever encountered: fundamental uncertainty. The perfect harmony that defined his species' existence was breaking down, replaced by cognitive dissonance that his evolutionary path had never prepared him to handle. The primitives have introduced corruption. He managed to communicate to his second-in-command. Impossible. Yet occurring, came the disturbing reply. In that moment, as the infiltration teams extracted from the mothership, the Vordax experienced their first truly alien emotion. "They're launching fighters," announced the Inori tactical officer, as holographic displays showed hundreds of crystalline vessels deploying from the larger Vordax ships. Atmospheric entry in 30 seconds. General Harris turned to Elena, who had returned from the infiltration mission just hours earlier. "Your virus was supposed to disable their weapons." "Not disable," Elena corrected, studying the erratic flight patterns. "Introduce unpredictability. Look at their formation. It's fragmented, uncoordinated." The Vordax fighters descended toward major military installations worldwide, but their normally perfect geometric formations had dissolved into chaotic clusters. Some vessels fired at incorrect targets, others at nothing at all. "Admiral Exurthal is attempting to compensate for the neural corruption by taking direct control," Shen explained, monitoring intercepted communications. "But centralized command is making them vulnerable to our countermeasures." Elena nodded. "Execute Operation Kaleidoscope." Across the globe, military and civilian facilities activated specialized defenses developed in the 5 days since first contact. Mirror arrays redirected the light-based targeting systems of Vordax weapons. Electromagnetic pulse generators disrupted their sensory capabilities. Most crucially, decoy transmitters projected false target signatures that confused the aliens' perception. "They evolved perfect harmony," Elena explained to the gathered commanders. "Their technology reflects that evolution, incredibly advanced, but fundamentally incapable of processing contradiction. When faced with conflicting data, they don't adapt, they crash." Over Beijing, a squadron of outdated fighter jets executed maneuvers specifically designed to appear random and purposeless. The Vordax targeting systems, unable to recognize the patterns, classified them as debris rather than threats, until they launched experimental weapons designed by Aisha's team. The ancient MiG fighters had been retrofitted with devices that emitted the same frequencies as the Vordax fighters' own communication systems. When deployed, these devices created identification confusion in the alien fleet, causing several vessels to fire upon their own kind. Near the Bering Strait, Russian submarines surfaced just long enough to launch automated drones carrying miniaturized versions of the Discord transmitters. The drones attached themselves to the undersides of Vordax fighters, spreading the neural corruption further through the fleet. "We're not winning through superior firepower," Elena told General Harris as they watched the global battle unfold. "We're winning through superior adaptation. Every time they adjust, we introduce a new form of chaos." In low Earth orbit, Admiral Exurthal struggled to maintain control of his increasingly fragmented forces. The harmonious network that had conquered 17 civilizations was experiencing cascading failures as human attacks exploited vulnerabilities no species had ever targeted before. "Behavioral analysis contradictory," reported his second-in-command. "Humans simultaneously display primitive technology and incomprehensible tactical innovation." "Retreat to orbit," Exurthal finally ordered, an unprecedented command in Vordax military history. Recalibration required. As the alien fighters withdrew, humanity celebrated its first victory, not through destroying the enemy, but by rendering their perfect systems temporarily useless. Military leaders worldwide looked to Elena's team with newfound respect. "We've bought time," she cautioned, "but they're already adapting. The Vordax collective intelligence will analyze what happened and develop countermeasures." "Can they overcome their own evolutionary limitations?" asked General Harris. "Unknown," Elena admitted, "but we're about to find out." In orbit, Admiral Exurthal communicated with the Vordax homeworld for the first time since arriving at Earth. His report contained another unprecedented element in Vordax history, a request for reinforcements. The response came swiftly. High Commander Vor Kellex was already en route with the dreadnought Harmony of Submission, carrying weaponry designed to end resistance permanently. For the first time in 17 conquests, The Vordax Collective would deploy a planet killer. The dreadnought Harmony of Submission emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system, its crystalline structure dwarfing the existing Vordax fleet. Unlike the elegant curves of the other vessels, this ship bristled with angular protrusions. Weapons evolved from 17 conquered civilizations. Elena studied the long-range imagery, noting the fundamental differences in design. This isn't just another warship. It's a statement of intent. Planet killer capability confirmed, Aisha reported grimly. Energy readings suggest a gravitational manipulation system that could literally tear Earth's crust apart. General Harris's face hardened. How long do we have? 3 days at its current velocity, Shen answered. But that's assuming it maintains course rather than accelerating. In the week since the first aerial battle, humanity had leveraged every captured piece of Vordax technology. Research facilities worldwide worked continuously to integrate alien components with human systems, producing hybrid weapons and defenses, but nothing capable of standing against the approaching dreadnought. Conventional tactics won't work this time, Elena stated. We need to change our approach entirely. She convened her expanded team, now including military strategists and scientists from 23 nations. The underground facility had become humanity's last hope, walls covered with equations, alien schematics, and battle plans. The Vordax expect us to defend Earth at all costs, Elena began. Their tactical models can't process the concept of sacrificing assets for strategic gain. We're going to use that blind spot. Dr. Chandra, a game theory specialist who had joined the team after the first battle, nodded in agreement. In every simulation, the optimal Vordax response assumes we value all our assets equally, just as they do. They cannot conceptualize deliberate, strategic loss. Operation Checkmate took shape, a strategy involving apparent vulnerabilities and deliberate sacrifices designed to position key assets where they would be most effective against the dreadnought. As the massive ship entered Earth orbit, High Commander Vor-Kellex assumed direct control of all Vordax forces. Unlike Admiral HFY, Vor-Kellex had personally overseen 7 planetary conquests. His neural patterns displayed adaptations from those experiences. He was more dangerous precisely because he had encountered resistance before. Begin preliminary crust destabilization, he ordered. Target tectonic boundaries to maximize psychological impact. The dreadnought's primary weapon charge, targeting the Pacific Ring of Fire. The display of power would trigger earthquakes and volcanic eruptions across multiple continents, demonstrating the futility of resistance without rendering the planet uninhabitable. Elena's team watched from their command center as energy readings from the dreadnought spiked. Initiate checkmate, she commanded. Across the globe, military forces launched what appeared to be a desperate, uncoordinated assault. Aircraft carriers positioned themselves in vulnerable formations. Missile silos fired at ineffective angles. Ground forces exposed themselves to orbital surveillance. Aboard the dreadnought, Vor-Kellex observed the chaotic human response with satisfaction. Their tactical cohesion has collapsed. They react from fear rather than strategy. His second-in-command concurred. Analysis shows 82% of human military assets are now in exploitable positions. Target their exposed command centers first, Vor-Kellex ordered, diverting energy from the primary weapon to the dreadnought's precision strike systems. Exactly as Elena had predicted. The moment the dreadnought's energy signature shifted, stealth shuttles, hidden within the seemingly chaotic human formations, accelerated toward the massive vessel. Each carried a specialized team and technology designed for one specific purpose. Vor-Kellex, focused on exploiting the apparent human desperation, failed to detect the true threat until the first shuttle breached his ship's outer defenses. Impossible, he stated as alerts flashed across his neural interface. They sacrificed valuable assets as deception. The concept was so foreign to Vordax, thinking that even naming it required restructuring his thought patterns. Elena's voice came through on all communication channels. Checkmate initiated. Phase 2 commencing. Elena regained consciousness in a chamber unlike any she had ever seen. The walls pulsed with crystalline veins carrying information rather than blood. The air itself seemed to vibrate with purpose. She was restrained by nothing physical. Instead, a field of energy held her immobile while allowing limited movement. Her infiltration team had successfully breached the dreadnought as part of Operation Checkmate, but they'd been separated during the chaotic insertion. The last thing she remembered was a pulse of energy as she approached what they believed was the ship's secondary command center. "Your neural patterns indicate consciousness," came a voice that seemed to bypass her ears and resonate directly in her mind. "Efficiency demands your cooperation." High Commander Vorkalek stepped into view, his massive form more imposing up close. Unlike the other Vordax she had encountered, his scaled skin bore marks. Not scars exactly, but deliberate modifications that suggested experience and rank. "You are Commander Elena Reyes," he continued. "Your brainwave patterns match our intelligence records. You are the architect of the corruption affecting our networks." Elena remained silent, assessing her situation. The chamber appeared to be an interrogation facility, but there were no visible instruments or devices, just the pulsing walls and Vorkalek himself. "Your silence is inefficient," the Vordax stated. "We will proceed with direct neural extraction." A crystalline apparatus descended from the ceiling, positioning itself near Elena's head. Unlike human technology, it moved with fluid grace, almost alive. "Your species has demonstrated unexpected capabilities," Vorkalek observed. 17 civilizations surrendered when faced with our superiority. Yet humans employ irregularity as tactical advantage. This requires understanding. The apparatus activated, projecting an energy field that enveloped Elena's head. She felt an immediate pressure, not physical pain, but the sensation of another consciousness touching her own. "Resistances," Vorkalek began, then stopped abruptly as the neural link established. What followed was unlike any interrogation in human experience. Instead of extracting information, Vorkalek found himself immersed in the chaotic complexity of human consciousness. Emotions he had no reference for flooded his highly ordered mind. Fear tangled with hope, determination strengthened by doubt, love coexisting with anger. Elena felt the alien presence in her mind and realized the connection worked both ways. She pushed memories forward. The desperation of human history, civilizations rising from their own ashes, individuals standing against overwhelming odds. Vorkalek physically recoiled, his 6 eyes blinking asynchronously. Contradictory, impossible, inefficient. Yet here we are. Elena managed to speak through the neural connection. Surviving, adapting, fighting. The Vordax commander struggled to process the experience. The neural extraction was designed to catalog facts, not interpret the incomprehensible tangle of human emotion and history. "Your species embraces chaos," he stated finally. "You find strength in disharmony. This violates all evolutionary principles." "Only yours," Elena countered. "We evolved in competition, not harmony. Every human stands alone in their mind. Yet we choose to stand together." The revelation seemed to physically distress Vorkalek. His perfect crystalline thought patterns encountered something they could not assimilate. A species whose very consciousness defied categorization. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the chamber. The neural apparatus retracted as the dreadnought shuddered violently. "What have you done?" Vorkalek demanded. Elena smiled despite her exhaustion. "That would be phase 3 of Checkmate. While you've been trying to understand one human mind, my team has been introducing your worst nightmare to your ship's systems." "Which is?" "Free will," Elena replied as the restraining field flickered. "We've given individual components of your neural network the ability to disagree with the collective, just like humans do." Vorkalek's expression shifted to something Elena recognized despite the alien features. Fundamental uncertainty. For a species evolved in perfect harmony, the concept of intentional discord was more than disturbing. It was existential horror. As the ship shuddered again, Alina realized her team had succeeded beyond expectation. The Vordax weren't just facing tactical defeat, they were experiencing the collapse of their entire worldview. The dreadnought harmony of submission shuddered as contradictory commands cascaded through its neural network. Systems designed to function in perfect coordination now operated independently, some shutting down while others activated at random. The massive vessel drifted out of stable orbit, its weapons powering down as emergency protocols conflicted with each other. Alina used the chaos to escape her restraints, navigating through corridors where confused Vordax crew members struggled to maintain control of their suddenly individualistic technology. She found Rodriguez and Kaido barricaded in a secondary control node, surrounded by disabled security drones. "The virus worked better than we anticipated," Rodriguez explained, gesturing to displays showing the spreading discord throughout the ship. "We didn't just introduce randomness. We gave their systems the ability to question central authority. For a hive mind species, it's the equivalent of sudden onset schizophrenia," Kaido added. "Their technology is literally arguing with itself." A violent tremor shook the chamber. Warning signals pulsed through the crystalline walls in patterns even their translators couldn't interpret. "The primary reactor is destabilizing," Rodriguez warned, analyzing the data streams. "The safeguards are offline because they can't reach consensus on what constitutes a threat." Alina's communicator activated, connecting her to the command center on Earth. General Harris's voice came through, distorted but understandable. "Commander, the dreadnought is showing catastrophic energy fluctuations. Our models predict total system failure within 20 minutes, followed by an explosion that could devastate the northern hemisphere." "Understood," Alina replied. "Extraction options." "Negative on extraction," came the grim response. "All shuttles were destroyed during insertion. You'd need to commandeer Vordax transport, but in their current state." Alina made her decision instantly. "We'll handle it from here. Rise out." She turned to her team. "We need to reach the bridge. There's only one way to prevent catastrophic failure now." They navigated through increasingly unstable sections of the ship, witnessing the complete breakdown of Vordax order. Some aliens huddled in confusion, while others performed contradictory tasks with mechanical precision. When they reached the bridge, they found High Commander Vorkellex attempting to manually override the ship's systems. His normally impassive face showed signs of strain, scales flushed with colors humans had never observed in the species. "You," he stated upon seeing Alina, "you have introduced fundamental corruption. The collective cannot reach consensus. And your ship is about to destroy itself and half my planet." Alina responded, "You need to initiate emergency shutdown." "Impossible without collective agreement," Vorkellex replied. "For the first time in our history, we cannot achieve harmony." Alina approached the central interface, studying the pulsing patterns. "Then we'll have to try something new for both our species. Cooperation between individuals." Vorkellex considered her words. "Individual action without collective consensus is unknown to us. Yet here you are, attempting it," Alina pointed out. "You're already adapting." A moment of understanding passed between them, human and alien recognizing something shared despite their profound differences. Working together, Alina's team and the Vordax commander initiated an emergency protocol that separated the reactor core from the vessel. As the ship's remaining systems stabilized, the ejected core accelerated away from Earth, detonating harmlessly in deep space. In the aftermath, as damaged sections of the dreadnought were sealed off, Vorkellex approached Alina in the temporary command center they had established. "The Vordax Collective will recall the fleet," he stated. "This world is classified as incompatible with integration." "You're retreating?" Alina asked. "Not retreating. Adapting." The alien commander's voice carried a new inflection. "Your species has introduced concepts our evolution never prepared us for. We must reconsider our understanding of efficiency." As the remaining Vordax ships prepared to depart Earth orbit, humanity cautiously celebrated not just survival, but the dawn of a new era. Salvaged alien technology would accelerate human development by centuries, while the Vordax returned to their collective with newfound appreciation for individual thought. Earth's signal to the stars now carried a clear message. They had expected humanity to surrender, but instead found themselves facing something unprecedented. A species that turned chaos into strength, division into innovation, and certain defeat into victory. They had severely miscalculated.